everybody. Welcome back to another My Little Pony in Warframe IPFrame video. Today we'll be doing Rainbow Dash, and of course for Rainbow Dash we have Zephyr. Now there are a couple of frames, you might be thinking about. Rainbow Dash's whole thing is flying fast, and so you might think Titania. Problem with Titania, she's already going to be used for another character. If you've been on the blog, you know who. You might also think, okay, other flying characters, there's Hildren. I'll address Hildren first. I just don't think Hildren fits. He's just kind of vibes. Rainbow Dash's whole thing is going fast, and Hildren is kind of designed to hover in the air, right? So, then we move on to another flying frame, Jade. Jade will also be used for a different character later on. This one isn't on the blog yet, so stick around. That's why we use Zephyr. Zephyr flies. Zephyr makes tornadoes. I felt like that was fitting considering Rainbow Dash is like on weather patrol essentially. And Zephyr's a great frame. The Gotva is here. Why is the Gotva here? Well, if you've ever seen the Gotva and the Zephyr interact before, you probably know. Otherwise, though, why does it fit Rainbow Dash? Well, I knew going into this that I wanted a assault rifle, because I felt like that's very Rainbow Dash, right? Shoot fast, kill things quickly. My first impulse was like the Soma Prime, and then kind of like I tried out the Boar for a bit, switched to the AX-52. I even like considered the Burstin. Consider the Stalta, even the Stradivar, but the Gotva has a semi-unique interaction with Zephyr that makes it really, really fun to use and really good. So we stick with this. The Sonic Core. Sonic Energy. That's it. Sonic Energy, Sonic Boom. Ooh. Here, let me switch this over. And the Jat Kittag. I felt like jet-powered mace was very Rainbow Dash core. And the Jat Kittag is actually really, really good on Zephyr. As always, let's kind of quickly go over the fashion frame. You can see we're using the Harrier skin. I felt like the jacket kind of, it reminds me of Rainbow Dash's jacket in the future episode, right? Or like pilot jacket. Plus, the skin is just very dynamic, and I like it quite a lot. Actually, the Conqueror skin wasn't out when I made this. It doesn't look bad. You could definitely play around with some of the colors here and make this look really peak. But you'll also notice that part of the problem is the color palette. In an attempt to make this rainbow, the color palette is a little messy. Not a lot of other Zephyr skins look good with it. Even the 10-gen skins that normally look really, really solid, right? So, I tend to like Harrier because it's kind of sleek. Each color is bold and stands out, and they also don't kind of like ride on top of each other a lot. So, a noble animation just because I like it. Attachments. We have all of the Avia gear, add even more wings to this Pegasus. We also have the Smoking Body ephemera. This is kind of twofold. You could kind of make an argument that this is like wind, but in my head, the image that was really coming out was like, in like cartoons and things, whenever a character is like super muscular and they like do something like super strong or like they race super hard and then it like cuts to them and they're like so like the implication being that like their muscles have worked so hard and they're so strong that they're like burning up and their sweat is steaming off of them. That was kind of the vibe I was going for. We move on to Syandana, the Harkener Wraith Cloak. I just really, as I was playing, felt like this needed an extra something, right? Like, playing without the cloak was like, ooh, I feel like I'm missing something. And this kind of imitates rainbows. Like, this brings a lot more red, whereas, like, the main colors here are blue and yellow. And so this brings a lot more red into it, and it also kind of ends up when you're like running around, it kind of feels like it mimics Rainbow's tail. Oh, Mesa Noble, sorry. You could definitely go Zephyr Noble. It just doesn't feel like a very Rainbow Dashy pose. Zephyr Agile is definitely a very Rainbow Dashy pose. The Agile animations tend to be pretty aggressive for showing off colors. No sigils. When you go into the Gotva, I'm pretty sure this is just copy Warframe colors, and speaking of which, I should probably show you the Warframe colors. We're using this one on Beach.
Bold and uncompromising.
Thank you, Order. We're using this one here on Gamma, primarily because if you go any darker, it doesn't read as green, and if you go more saturated, like if we go to the same color on Classic Saturated, it kind of blends into the blue. This way you still kind of keep some of that green, like it looks a bit more distinct from the blue. The jacket here is going to be this color on Eminence. We got the blue here on Kavia. We have our pink from Classic Saturated. We have our red from Classic Saturated. If you need that in a slower format, then I will link my blog posts in the description below so that you can go and look at that. The only difference is here on attachments, we have the Classic Saturated color for blue. When it comes to the Gotva, like I said, copy colors. I don't have it visible when holstered. The Sonicore actually kind of looks cool visible when holstered. Oh, never mind. For some reason, I thought it stayed on your arm. Never mind. Anyway, I have the Cleona skin. It kind of just looks better than the normal Sonicore skin, if you ask me, but the Sonicore skin isn't bad. It kind of blends into, like, flat, blocky design of Zephyr. But I just like the Cleona. This is, again, copy Warframe colors. Oh, that's neat that it copied like that. I didn't know that did that. The Kittag. Same thing, copy Warframe colors. I don't have a skin selected, but, you know, if you want to run something that you think makes it look pretty cool, go ahead. Onto the builds. I'll come back around to Zephyr. I'll do Zephyr last. First, let's kind of dig into the Gotva. So, as you know, you want to use this to shoot into the tornadoes, and when you shoot into the tornadoes, you get really big crit because of the unique trait. Because of that, we're really looking for high status and good crit stuff. Because of that, we're running Critical Delay, we're running Vital Sense, we're running Bladed Rounds even for more critical damage on kill. Just make sure you're aiming, which shouldn't be hard because usually when you're Zephyr, you want to be aim gliding in the air. Tactical Reload is just, like, helpful. You can replace this with Vigilante Supplies if you want. All three of these 60/60s running Viral and Heat. As a note, the Puncture here also helps with our critical chance, which, like, isn't the biggest deal, but it is still worth mentioning, I feel. We're even running Hammer Shot for even more status chance and critical damage. This makes just using the weapon regularly, this is a really insane effect because we're pretty much always proccing a status, and so what that translates to is every shot essentially has a 15% chance to have a critical chance of 300. We're running Merciless for our flat damage, and yeah, this thing just shreds. The Sonicore. The Sonicore isn't good. I am so sorry, friends. It's just not, factually. So, I'm running this as sort of like a primer. I know it says 0% status chance. It is a lie. It doesn't. I don't remember the name, or I don't remember the number, but it is a lie. We're running Secondary Fortifiers so that this does something on God anything. You have Scorch Accelerated Isotope here just for filling up on statuses and things. Even Hemorrhage is here just to add an extra status to the pile. Barrel Diffusion is nice. Augur Secrets, because, again, we're using this as a primer. That's kind of what we want to be using it for. The reason we're priming is for the Kittag. Condition Overload. This is, of course, an influence build. You'll notice also we're using Vulcan Blitz. So, let's combine all this together into a logical stream, yes? Sacrificial Steel. You'll note I have an Umber Forma invested. You could just throw on Galvanized Steel. It's probably the macro is better, honestly, but it's whatever. So you have Sacrificial Steel or Galvanized Steel, whichever one you want. Condition Overload for our flat damage, preferably hopefully boosted by the Sonicore or the Gotva. Galvanized Reflex for heavy attack efficiency, and on melee kill to get initial combo. This effectively means that you eventually just start stacking up initial combo so that you can just start heavy slamming over and over and over again without much concern. Seismic Wave for more slam attack damage. Vulcan Blitz. I'll come back to this, but enemies explode on death, dealing blast damage. Organ Shatter for critical damage for whenever we do crit, which is with Sacrificial Steel about half the time. Shocking Touch, primarily just so we can proc Influence, and then Killing Blow for melee damage on heavy attack and heavy attack wind-up speed if ever you're using normal heavy attacks and not slams. So, effectively what we have here is a slam build, right? And you just want to slam and keep slamming. The thing about this is that Influence, of course, is a massive AoE of damage, right? Just insane damage that you can get out of Influence, as Influence normally does. But Vulcan Blitz effectively adds like another 6 meters onto that range. And then the blast damage is really solid, actually. Like, it isn't great, obviously, but it definitely will kill things that survived your first slam, right? And it ends up working like a lot more than you would think. And then, of course, your preferred Tennokai. Rainbow Dash. The Zephyr herself. We do not have any Archon shards. Why? The thing about that is that I'll talk about some Archon shards, but I didn't find it super necessary, I believe. What are we doing here? Well, we have Energize to help us with our energy economy. You'll note we are running no subsumes, because Tailwind is just very in character for Rainbow Dash, and Dive Bomb is just kind of funny. Airburst is really great grouping, whenever you need to, like, group a bunch of enemies and then slam, if you're like, ooh, that's a juicy group of enemies, but I don't want to throw down my tornadoes, right? Or frequently what I end up doing is using Airburst to pull enemies towards the tornadoes. Turbulence is basically our survivability. It makes us borderline invulnerable. And then finally Tornado, which is so wonderful. You want to make sure you're using the close together tornadoes here, not the far apart ones. So, with all of that, we have Arcane Fury here. Whenever we critical hit, we get a whole bunch of melee damage. That's just helpful for the Kittag. Other than that, we're running a lot of range here. In fact, you could probably... there is an argument to switch Stretch Out for Augur Reach if you want more of that energy conversion to shields to kind of help shield gating a little. But we're running lots of range because we want the tornadoes to be able to pick things up from as far away as possible. We want Airburst to be as effective as possible, and this also helps Turbulence redirect projectiles. Aside from that, we're running a whole bunch of duration with Primed Continuity and Augur Message, and Constitution, and Narrow-Minded, primarily because we want the tornadoes to last as long as they can, and right now they last about a minute. There is an argument for taking off Narrow-Minded. If you do, though, the tornadoes only last about 40 seconds. Turbulence also only lasts about 40 seconds. It's just a little sketchier. However, if you want to dump some ability duration shards into Zephyr, right? Like if we go down to the chair, if you want to dump some red shards, dump some ability duration, you would need like 5 to be able to compare, like match up to Narrow-Minded and get back that minute. But if you really, 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 really wanted to, you could very easily dump 5 or so shards you would need to make, like, compensate for Narrow-Minded, and then you can just switch Rolling Guard onto this Vazarin Polarity, and, like, again, you could switch out Stretch for the Augur mod, and then you could use, like, Catalyzing Shields, and, you know, do shield gating stuff more that could help with survivability. You could throw on, you could use that space to throw on even more range and do the Augur mod and like separately instead of replacing Stretch. You could even throw on like Primed Flow or like Equilibrium to help more with energy economy. I will say that energy economy is the sketchiest part of this build, but I felt like it always worked out fine. So, moving on, we have Rolling Guard. This is just to clear harmful procs from us, essentially. If, you get caught in an Xmas wave or something like a environmental hazard hits you, Rolling Guard is just really good for clearing out that effect. Near's Anguish. This gives us that nice bump to parkour velocity that I so love, and aim glide duration, which is really helpful on Zephyr. This also increases our slam attack damage. Overall, Nira's mods are just phenomenal. Just so great. There's even like a argument to be made for using Nira's hatred over like Augur Message, or if you do manage to, like, if you really don't want the minus range, you could also run this, and you get over like solidly over 40 seconds. It still isn't great, but you get more slam damage, and so it's a trade-off. Consider testing it out if you feel like you want the extra range. I don't feel like I do, though, because 50 meters is a lot. Even taking this build into the circuit, like, I can hold down defense objectives very competently without things really being able to get in shooting range. So, we have all of this. A side thing that I would like to mention is that there is kind of a new Tenno build that we can do here. So, obviously you would switch out the continuity for... Do I not have a... Oh, I don't. So, now I remember why this is here. So, obviously you switch out primed continuity for normal continuity. I just don't have one ranked up. You can see the difference is 15% for me, since I don't have this one all the way ranked up. So it's about 15% duration. Other than that, Constitution, this is a Nightmare mod, I believe. Same with Overextended, and I believe Vigor also. All Nightmare mods, all things you can pick up pretty easily. Aviator, I forget where you get Aviator from, but it's a bronze mod. I don't think it's that difficult to pick up. Check on the wiki from where you get it. Stretch, I believe the quests just give you stretch outright now, so that's chill. Same with continuity, I think. And then the Augur mods, you're gonna pick those up from Cetus, doing Cetus bounties, and shock absorbers. I don't remember where you get shock absorbers from, but I feel like it's a fairly common enemy, and like, I feel like, yeah, I have at least one duplicate, and I feel like that's just because I went through and cleared out some of my duplicates recently. So, what is the deal here? Well, we're basically doing health tanking, but, you also get the nice shield bump from Vigor that, like, combining that with, like, you spend your energy, you get shields back, you'll be pretty much invulnerable. I mean, we also have Turbulence here that at a much lower duration, of course, but all of this combines to make you effectively invulnerable. Dreamer's Bond, obviously you're given this for free. It means that you regen health really quickly, and you get that little bit of energy regen, which is pretty much the only way we're going to be able to do energy sustain for this build at this lower level. If you're looking for better energy sustain, I think the best thing you could do if you're trying to seriously like leverage Zephyr into your first Steel Path frame, which I think is a lovely decision. I think that's incredibly viable, especially if you use the Jat Kittag build that I'm about to show off. Then if you want to like leverage this into Steel Path, I think the quickest and easiest choice is to replace Tailwind with Nourish. I believe Nourish, you get the Grindle pieces from Arbitrations, so you'll unlock Steel Path the same time you unlock Arbitrations, because you have to have all of the map nodes complete, and you can farm up Grendel. Nourish is one of the, if not the best, subsume in the game right now, and definitely top 5 at the very least. You replace replace Tailwind with Nourish. Every time you use Nourish, it'll multiply your energy income, and so you're going to be like your passive energy regen here is going to be multiplied massively. You could also further on that wavelength. You could form a Zephyr here to be able to use Energy Siphon, and Energy Siphon is going to be doing like more energy recovery for you, especially if you decide that you may not need that health regen. Otherwise, Aviator is here to do damage blocking and give you more EHP. Same with Shock Absorbers. I ended up testing this and just found that at like lower levels of gameplay, Shock Absorbers is just really nice, as it turns out. It might sound like stupid because it's not a lot of damage resistance and it's only physical damages, so like impact, puncture, and slash. But a lot of enemies do impact, puncture, and slash damage, especially at the lower tiers. Like the things like the Hayeka Masters don't, Eximus don't, but like as long as you're careful about not running into elemental traps and things, Shock Absorbers is actually like a nice 20% DR. I mean, it's essentially 1.5 Aviator, right? If you don't have Shock Absorbers, like you can't find it or you don't want to use it or whatever, I would recommend using Augur Accord. You get more shields. You're at over 1,000 shields, which is absurd. Like you genuinely, it's very hard to die going through the star chart with over 1,000 shields. You could even run like Augur Secrets isn't great, but if for some reason you have Augur Secrets but not Augur Accord, then that's a thing you can do. Also, if you don't get Vigor but you have Augur Accord, you can switch Vigor for Augur Accord, yada yada. But Shock Absorbers is kind of the way to go. I won't be showing this build off because obviously I'm here to show off the min-maxed one. Trust my word on this, if you're looking to break into Steel Path and you have Zephyr, and you don't have, like, Aerodynamic, you don't have Primed Continuity because Barrow hasn't come around, you don't have Rolling Guard because you're still trying to farm it, you don't have the Archon mods because, as in, like, Nira Amar and Boreal's mods, because either you haven't done the quest or, in which case, spoiler warning, I guess, but either you haven't done the quest or you just haven't gotten around to grinding them out. Take this as a hint, or especially if you don't have access to arcanes yet, or you don't like farming arcanes. Trust me, I understand. There's a reason my Energize is rank 1, and it's because I don't like farming arcanes. At least not old arcanes. So, this is a really solid build. It'll help you clear out Star Chart, it'll help you do Sortie, it'll help you do Archon hunts once you get there. Simply because in an Archon hunt, like as a new player in an Archon hunt, what you're most concerned about it with is survivability. If you load into a public lobby, like odds are the other 3 people in the public lobby are going to be able to take care of the Archon. Especially at this point with the changes to damage attenuation that have happened. But yeah, this is just a really solid build. Take my word on it. If there's enough outcry, I guess, I'll make another video like showing this off in Steel Path missions. But Rainbow Dash. As for the other new player-friendly build, this is the Rainbow Dash New 10.0. The reason Shattering Storm is here is because it's easier to get than Crushing Ruin. Otherwise, you have your General Pressure Point, you have True Steel, Organ Shatter, Shocking Touch. These are all mods you should have access to as long as you're, like, pretty regularly playing the game. Seismic Wave is a little bit harder to pick up, but it adds a significant amount of damage. Same with Killing Blow, and there's silver mods that are fairly easy to pick up to memory. Corrupt Charge and Quickening are both Nightmare mods. If you don't have Quickening, you can switch it out for Fury, or if you happen across a Berserker Fury, you can do that. Corrupt Charge is just here for initial combo. That's not what I wanted to do. If we search combo, there's some other good options that like aren't going to fully replace, like aren't going to do the same thing that this is doing for us, but are going to be neat. Like Gladiator Rush, that gives us more combo duration, which means we can hold on to our combo a bit longer. Gives you the opportunity to build it up, and then you hold on to it if you're like transitioning between areas or something. That's an interesting option. Gladiator Rush isn't going to be that hard to find. There's also Drifting Contact that gives you the same plus to combo duration, but like there's True Punishment, which is also kind of helpful. You can do a couple of like non-heavy slams. That 100% additional combo count chance is going to like help you rack that up. There's like an argument to be made about Relentless Combination, but it isn't great. If you just want to slot like something kind of random in here because you can't get Corrupt Charge and it's easier to farm Arbitration for Galvanized Reflex. Galvanized Reflex is, of course, the built-out version of that, so considerations to be made. Also, for our companion, we have Tank. I felt like Shade Prime or Prisma Shade was just kind of the best sort of tank sort of thing. So we're using obviously the Shade Prisma skin. This is what the normal Shade skin looks like. It's still pretty cute, if you ask me. Sprite Shade even isn't all that bad. When it comes to attachments, in my head, I just like Tank already has like the little propeller to help him move around. In a Warframe universe, I could totally see Rainbow Dash slapping jet engines on his shell so that he just zooms, right? So that's why the Jet Sentinel wings are here. The Chitoid Sentinel mask kind of is just like, this is the closest I feel like I could get to a turtle head, you know? So yeah, that's why that's there. Obviously attachments are just copy main colors. For the actual colors, we're using this one for Halloween for the main body. Using this green from Classic. Using this other green from Classic. Using this kind of brownie color from Classic. And then in the greens here, we're using this kind of green from Corpus, and this bright green from Corpus. As for the actual build, it is pretty simple stuff. Medi-Ray for occasional healing, that helps for, like, recovering from errant toxin procs and things like that. Sacrifice, so that we get a free res if we get downed. Vacuum, because of course. Regen to help counterbalance Sacrifice. Guardian for an extra bump to our shield gating. Shield Charger for an additional extra bump to our shield gating. Tenacious Bond, which for this I am using the Prime Laser Rifle. As long as you're using a weapon that can get over 50% crit chance, you'll be fine. Coolant Link to get extra cold procs on enemies. Mystic Bond to help with our energy economy that is oh so dearly needed. And Assault Mode so that we can still shoot things, primarily because we're also running cold, and of course the IPS is here, and like the occasional cold proc and the occasional puncture proc will help us with like critting more and critting harder on our weapons. So, with all that kind of come together, I won't bother with Simulacrum test, and we will instead jump straight into our normal Steel Path mission. I'm not bothering with like, yeah, sure. We'll just run this. I'm not bothering with the Simulacrum run because, you know, there's arguments to be made about how accurate the Simulacrum is in testing. The thing is with Zephyr is that it's really...
deserve your respect.
Oh boy. Hello, Teshin.
And I with your victory.
Another thing is that you're going to want to run Wellspring just to help with your energy economy. Yeah, hello fellas. And I got stuck on rocks.
Once the Grenier switch to tectonic munitions, it will become capable of obliterating colonies in a single shot. Watch out. I'm detecting void fissures nearby. Do you have a matching relic?
The thing about Zephyr is that the disparity between, like, Simulacrum and, yeah, and you can see the Gotva doing its thing whenever we shoot into the tornadoes. We want to make sure we're in the air. And you can see it just, the tornadoes disable enemies, the Gotva shreds them, right? This would be doing more damage if we had spec'd more into it rather than the Kittag, which, speaking of which, oh, you gotta love how goofy it is to do slams in this game. You can see this is kind of like the Gotva without the tornadoes. It isn't great, especially against a Leech Eximus, but, you know, it's still putting in work. It's still getting through the enemy. Find the cannon. Have to clear lockdown. But yeah, I want to show off, you know, kind of what that does. One thing I will note about the Sonic Wart is that I found it's really good for hitting traps. You know, like, you're running through a Corpus tile set, and you're... Oh god, there's the sensors, right? Bump, gone. Even, you can just shoot at the general direction of the door, and it'll take them out, because the Sonic Wart just has a really wide range. In general, it's just really good for running around because it'll also, you know, stagger enemies really hard. And so, if a guy is shooting at you and it's annoying because you're, like, running through a long hallway or something, hit it with the Sonic Ore, they fall over, they aren't a big deal anymore, you know? Or at the very least, they stagger. And obviously, you've been watching the gas procs firing off every once in a while. But yeah, we'll go ahead and do this normal kind of test. As you can see, of all of the builds I've showed off, Zephyr hasn't died. So you can tell that I like playing Zephyr and play her quite frequently. Not that I don't like other frames like Citrine and Mesa that I know have perished at my hands, but I'm not as good at them as I am running Zephyr. It helps that Turbulence is just an insane survivability ability.
Are no longer in control of their cannon. Now it's time to turn their weapon back on.
You can also see, despite everything, we aren't having issues with our energy.
The command center controls the Navar cannon's telemetry systems.
That might be different if you're trying to, like, cast more often. Like, hit more air bursts, hit more tornadoes, things like that. But on average, you're going to be doing pretty well. Okay, we'll slap that one in the middle there.
That's the first key.
Kind of bad key spawns. I never remember. Okay, you can't just slide through there.
You found a key.
Not all that bad then. We just can't grab two in one run.
Good. One more to go.
Phenomenon. So here, I will take a minute here to kill these guys. First, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Not only because I need the reactant, of course, but because, like, you know, to actually show off the build some more. This build is really good for, like, you know, defenses, things where you need to, like, lock down an area, or even just spending a long time in a survival and just, like, hard locking down a corridor, right? That's really where this build succeeds.
Insert that telemetry key into the console.
Do 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 do. Phenomena. And so you can see we're going to get Turbulence back up, slap this in here, go ahead and throw down our tornadoes. And then we can kind of just hover around, shoot into them. You can see here, throw down an air burst, it'll drag these guys over. We can hard switch to the Kittag. And boom. That was a lot of guys dead. Stripped off that guy's overguard for the most part, I think. Go ahead and just do a couple more slams, keep our combo rolling. Pull more guys into our tornadoes. Slam. Killed the Eximus there, you can tell. Go ahead and hold on some energy here so we can go ahead and get our tornadoes started again. I'll again go ahead and kind of like... That's strange that they spawned over there. I'm not a fan of that. This tile set is a little wonky with how it handles tornadoes. There we go. Yeah, this tile set is definitely wonky with how it handles tornadoes. There we go. Dead guys. And that wasn't even heavy slam, as you could tell. You can tell, if you switch over to just, like, trying to do that, it's not great, right? This is a hard slam build. You can't just easy melee. But, it's still fun. Ooh. The guy? You know I love the guy. Malice. I hear that Yu-Gi-Oh deck is not appreciated on Master Duel. Anyway, sorry, that was a deep nerd joke. You can tell we're kind of... We aren't making... Ah, there we go, a Vulcan Blitz went off. And he's dead. And now we'll go ahead and head back over here, fire the cannon, go ahead and head back so that we can keep farming them void traces out.
Direct hit. The galleon has been obliterated. Now return to the telemetry system and make sure the cannon stays silent.
Oh.
The targeting mechanism is out of commission. The cannon is useless now. The Grenier will think long and hard before trying to use this weapon again.
Oh, enemy. Oh, enemy. Where was that? I heard an explosion that sounded like a void portal opening. Little bones. Hey, here we go. I will say that this build definitely got hit after the slam nerfs, but you're also Zephyr. Like, if you're in a high-ceilinged room, you just hit Tailwind, right? And then you slam with full damage. Go ahead and do that to kill the guys. Come on, friends. Join in the fun. There we go. Melee weapon has increased damage. Now we can slam harder. Aw, hell, they were immune. Okay, we'll stop goofing some. Here, hold on. One more for the road, yeah? Come on, then. Everybody join in. How fun. Come on, everybody join in. Everybody join in. Everybody join in. Come on. Dead. Oh, I love this build. It's so much fun. It's just so goofy, you know? And I love that the Kittag can still work.
As you conquer the foe, so you conquer yourself.
Of course, there's probably better slam weapons out there, but the Kittag is just so fun. And honestly, it's a vibe. So yeah, that's the build. Hope everybody has a good day. Thank you for watching, and see you later.